So, you're ready to head out there onto the road and get yourself to an amphibian crossing site. You feel pretty confident about your identification skills, you've printed out some data sheets, you're ready to go. What do you need to know before you walk out the door? We're going to break it down piece by piece and starting with how you should be dressed. Because these amphibian migrations take place on the first warm, rainy nights of spring, and when we say warm, we mean 40 degrees or so, or sometimes even a little less. That, when it's raining, is actually not that warm for a human, as it turns out. So we recommend, first of all, since you'll be working outdoors on a road at night, wearing something that makes you very visible. Safety is always the number one priority, and so it's important that you stay safe by wearing reflective or bright colored clothing. Rain gear is essential. Sometimes when you first head out the door, it might just be a slight trickle of rain, but that trickle could turn into a steady downpour at any moment, and you don't want a little bit of rain to interfere with you getting out there onto the road and doing what you need to do. Mud boots, especially if you're working on dirt roads, those dirt roads become mud roads pretty quick. We call it mud season for a reason. And plenty of warm, dry clothes. I always recommend dressing in layers and bringing extra layers. I've been out there sometimes in heavier rain, and within a half hour, 45 minutes, your clothes are starting to soak through. And it's very nice to be able to be comfortable while you're out there doing this. You don't want to have to head home because of the clothing or wardrobe malfunction. Lastly, sounds a little silly, but hat with a brim is a great sort of thing to have, or an umbrella, or something to keep water out of your face and to keep a little bit of a surface area underneath you dry, especially when it comes to data recording and things like that. You should bring quite a few things with you. It's important to be prepared. You don't want to get to your crossing site and realize you're missing something. Flashlight is obviously priority number one. You're going to be getting outside of your car to actually help the amphibians across the road, and without a good high-powered flashlight, it's going to be sometimes really challenging to see them. That means none of the little flashlights that you find on your keychain, no glowing the ground with your cell phone light. It should be a good, powerful flashlight. I find LED flashlights work really well. They seem to have a very bright and focused beam. But make sure that the better you're able to see them, the safer it's going to be for them, and the easier it's going to be for you. And of course, the extra batteries, because everybody knows when you actually need the flashlight, that's when the batteries decide to run out. Clipboard and pencils for recording data, some sort of data recording service. They have some different types of paper that you can get that are water resistant for recording data in the field in the rain. But really, just a little notebook is fine. And I recommend also, of course, printing out data sheets and bringing those with you to your crossing site. Plastic bag is helpful to put over the clipboard, keep it a little bit dry while you're out there in the fields. Once your data sheet soaks through, it's kind of a bummer. It makes it hard to record data. A clean bucket for carrying the amphibians across the road. That's optional, but at some really busy sites, I know people who like to have a place they can just toss them real quick and gather a great number and get them off of the road before the next car comes. Of course, if you choose to use a bucket like that, it should be a bucket that has never been used for anything like paint or any other products before that could, be harmful to the amphibians. Camera is always a good thing to have. We recommend that folks take pictures of the amphibians that they document at their crossing site, especially when we have records of new species for certain towns or areas, which does happen quite frequently. It's good to be able to document those first sightings with photographic evidence. And this is a little bit gruesome, but spatula or gloves are something that will prepare you for moving the ones that have been hit off of the road. This is important, as we'll see later, for recording data on road mortality rates. When you're out there recording data and you record the ones that got hit, you want to avoid double counting those as you walk up and down the road time and time again. So we recommend something to help remove dead amphibians from the road after you've counted them. Lastly, thermometer. Temperature is one of those things that is important for us to record with our data. Temperature is obviously of importance because if we can pay attention to the temperature these guys are crossing at, it can help us to better refine our predictions of when they might move and better understand the triggering mechanisms that cause them to begin their migration. And yeah, one more, snacks and water, because sometimes you get hungry and it's nice to have a little snack. So we're going to go through the road crossing protocol now. This is the procedure that you will go through as you leave and head to your crossing site, as well as once you get there. First, start with clean hands. Amphibians have very sensitive skin that they're able to absorb certain chemicals through that could be harmful, and those harmful chemicals could be things that aren't necessarily harmful to you or me. So if you were to have certain lotions or creams on your skin or perfumes or other fragrances, that can potentially cause problems for amphibians. And as far as mosquitoes go, no need for your bug spray. That's one of the beautiful things about this time of year is the amphibians move before the mosquitoes are even out. So keep the bug spray at home, keep the hands clean, and you're good to go. Second, try to bring at least one other person out with you. It makes it much easier to sort of divide the responsibilities in terms of data keeping versus moving amphibians across the road versus keeping out for cars and traffic to stay safe. So it's always helpful to do this in groups or pairs at least, and plus it's always fun to do it with more company too, so why not bring a friend? As you're approaching your crossing site, drive very slowly. We recommend about 15 miles an hour. That's about as fast as you want to go. And sometimes, if the rain is really coming down, even that might be too fast to spot amphibians in time to stop for them. As you're driving from a car, a salamander might look like a stick on the road, and frogs can be even more challenging. Sometimes they just look like little pebbles if you're not looking carefully enough and driving slow enough. And once you actually get to your crossing site, you can actually pull over and get out. We say keep the windows down because a lot of times when you're getting close to the pools, you'll hear the spring peepers or wood frogs before you actually even get close. And scan that road, like we said, because once you've gotten to an area where frogs and salamanders are crossing, you're going to pull over safely to an area where you can leave your car and you're going to proceed by foot. You cannot do an amphibian crossing from a moving vehicle. It just doesn't work. If you're in a really crowded, really busy crossing site, the rate of amphibians is just going to be too much, and you're going to really end up hurting more than you help if you try to do this by car. So once you're at your road crossing site, before you even get out of your car, you can fill out the front half of your data sheet, which we'll take a look at in a minute. That front half of the data sheet includes information about your site, including the time you got there, the number of people in your party, where the site is located, things of that nature. And once that's filled out, you're going to hop out of your car and you're going to start scanning the road for amphibians as you walk back and forth along the crossing corridor. And you'll know you're in the crossing corridor because you're going to see frogs and salamanders crossing the road. Hopefully the directions will be very specific to get you right to that crossing corridor, and we encourage you with your data sheet, once you found a crossing area, to be as specific as you possibly can about where it is, because oftentimes these crossing sites can be across fairly narrow stretches of road. Sometimes on one road it might just be 100 yards in which the amphibians are crossing, and the whole rest of the road has no movement or activity whatsoever. So once you're out of your car and you're encountering amphibians, you're going to move each amphibian that you find in the direction that it's traveling. And you're going to record that down on your data sheet. Now, like we said before, you do want to remove the roadkills from the road. It's really one of the hardest things about actually going out there and doing this. It's incredible to see this migration unfold in front of your eyes, but it's also really, really difficult to see the carnage that can be created, and really empowering once you're actually out there and moving them across the road and saving them. But as difficult as it can be to see the ones that didn't make it, we need to count them. That's one of the most important things about this project, is documenting where amphibians are not making it across the road. So record each and every amphibian that did not make it across the road, that got killed, on your data sheet in the provided section, and move them across the road so that we don't end up double counting them. And of course, please do take pictures. Not only do we really enjoy seeing you out there on the roads making a difference, but your documentation of the species that you find can be valuable in just learning more about where amphibians are across our landscape. And finally, like we said, having very accurate directions is extremely helpful for us in this project. So especially if you're at a new crossing site or an older crossing site that could use an updated set of instructions for how to get there, give us directions, including, even if it's helpful, a drawn out map of how to actually get to that crossing site. Now, how to record data. You want to give, like we said, your exact location. If you're with more than one person, you can just send one data sheet per group. That would be fine. And use pictures and maps whenever possible to help support your observations. Um, Especially if you're seeing a species that's unusual, try to include the field marks that you use to identify that species. Of course, you'll have your camera already, so you'll have a picture of it, but especially if you don't have that camera, take notes while you're in the field about what you observe and how you came to the conclusion about what you were seeing. Because, like I mentioned before, we do have volunteers who discover new species in towns where they were never known to previously occur. Record data as you go. That is a huge one because if you head out from your car and you realize you left the data sheet in the trunk, by the time you get back to that car after having walked for 15 minutes or so, moving amphibians, you're going to forget what you saw. So bring the data sheets with you, record the data as you go, and that will ensure that it is as accurate as possible. Here's a quick look at what the data sheet looks like. This is the front half, which includes information about the site, about you, how we can get in touch with you, where you are, when it is. Most of it is pretty self-explanatory. The one thing I'll mention is in the traffic section, we're interested in how heavy the traffic is at your crossing site. But especially if you find a crossing site where the traffic level is heavy, you have to make a very careful assessment over whether or not it is safe to be crossing amphibians at this location. Safety is always our top priority, and the truth of the matter is there's no cut and fast rules that tell you this site is safe and this site is not. It's an assessment that you have to make individually at each site. If you do find a site where traffic is just too heavy and you don't feel that it is a safe place to be trying to escort amphibians, we still encourage you to fill out the front half of this data sheet, and you can give us the location and just make a note that says there were amphibians, but I couldn't safely monitor them, so I'm not sure how many or what kind. These heavy traffic sites might turn out to be the most important for us to know about because of the level of traffic that there is. So anyway, after you filled out the front half of the data sheet and headed out of your car, you are going to start filling out the back half of the data sheet. There's a section for the total number alive and dead, of course, and we do ask you to try to count all of them. Sometimes that means counting a lot, but the more accurate your data is, the more useful it can be to us. Once you've filled out your paper data sheet in the field, that data sheet is also available online at the North Branch Nature Center's website. It should be a link included with the video below. But once you've filled out that sheet that you've printed and taken into the field, you can go home and you can either mail us that data sheet or you can go onto our website and submit the data electronically, and in which case there's no need to mail us the paper form. But if you submit it electronically, this is what you're going to see. The web page mirrors very, very closely what the paper data form looks like, with the first part including information about the site and where you are, and the second half including information about the amphibians that you observed. Thank you for watching and listening. Now you're ready to get out there on the road and help some amphibians and frogs get across safely. All of the resources that I just discussed are posted online on our website so that you can print them out and take them into the field with you to have as reminders. Also, be sure to remember your data sheets, your raincoat, your flashlight, and stay safe out there. You are now enlisted in the army of not only amphibian rescue volunteers and monitors, but also educators, because as cars go by, some people might pull over, they might become curious, and you're going to become the one who's teaching them and helping to spread the word about this incredible miracle of nature, the spring migration of amphibians. Thank you for volunteering, and good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.